Incoming transmission.
Hey, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome back, Commander, and it's me, Gino, and welcome to the 23rd anniversary of Tiberian Sun, as we are on the 6th day of the event. By the way, if you're new into this group or page and you're not updated, you can check out my videos from last year's Red Alert anniversary as I interviewed Athena Mazzi, also known as the GDI Kodiak Pilot Brink, and Command & Conquer Red Alert 2's Lieutenant Eva. And also you can check out my Alexander Kanak interview as well. Also, the community thanks to all the Command & Conquer fans around the world, from modders, programmers, and players of the game. Without you, the community won't dead until this time. So, let's get started. Hello everyone, my very special guest for today is quite original for a Tiberian Sun Total Conversion mod, as it brings the Vietnam War to Tiberian Sun engine. Such passion of making a mod just to travel in other countries to get every detail and accuracy. So joining me here via Zoom, he's the developer of the NAM, tama ba? Vietnam Combat Operations, Tiger Yan. Hi Tiger, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks a lot, Gino, and thanks for having me. And I'd like to say hi to all of your viewers and listeners. And it's really such a special opportunity to talk about the game, which we've worked so hard and so long for. Took basically 2 decades to make, and
Wow,
finally,
2 decades.
yeah, 2 decades. I literally grew like 50 more white hairs from the time I started the project, and
Oh,
it gave me like 49 of them.
so so before we start, I have some personal questions. So here, how hardcore are you as a CNC fan?
Pretty hardcore. I guess I started like most people. We bought the original boxed Command and Conquer games.
Oh,
No
nice.
pirated stuff back in the day. So
Like
we
from
were
ano,
pretty serious.
uh, like from
You
Data
know,
Blitz, like something like this, no?
I know. I
Yeah.
was gonna say
Ah,
you have original games
yeah.
behind you, and now people just download stuff. But back in the day, for the games we really loved, like the first Command and Conquer game
Yeah,
with the guy in goggles, right?
yeah.
So bought it from Red Alert, Tiberian Sun, everything was original. So from the get go, we were really real time strategy players. So it's me and my brother, but he branched off into other games.
Okay, then. Uh, have you played all CNC titles? Or what game do you like most?
For me, it's really CNC Tiberian Sun because of the ambience and the grittiness that you feel when you're playing it. When I played it, I immediately was transported into the world because a combination of really good mood lighting, good music, good AI gave me a good enough experience so that I was pretty much hooked from the moment I played Tiberian Sun up to today. So it's still my favorite. It's not the most advanced, but it's certainly the most immersive for me.
Okay, wait. My looper suddenly crashed. Anyway, uh so from many of the current modders here in the community started like when they're still teens. Like for me, I started in 5th grade 2003. So how old back then when you start modding? So did it
Oh,
manifest like it's just like a hobby or curiosity on how the game works? Parang ganon.
so this whole thing started when we were playing around with Command and Conquer Red Alert. So there
The
was an
first,
INI file,
yeah.
same thing, rules.ini, and then it was as simple as, oh, I can double the health of a mammoth tank or make it really fast. And so you
Something
keep
like
on changing just a little bit, right? A little bit, little bit, little, and you keep on tinkering around with the rules.ini, and you eventually come to the realization that you can make your own game if you truly understand how all of these sub programs work. And so that's how it started for me. So it started with CNC Red Alert, where we made another game. Uh, me and my brother called it CNC Legions. So it's
Mm.
basically getting CNC Red Alert and changing it to a scale that is 10 times more massive. So instead of getting attacked by 20 troops, you would literally get attacked by one third of a map of infantry. It was
Oh,
so bad for the
so basically, like back then, you're looking for cheats how to be like godlike or god moon.
yeah. And then we developed. So it was like a form of desktop tower defense.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the format. So you had a base, and then uh, so many troops would come at you, and your goal was to try to survive. But we really honed our programming and experimentation skills by playing around with CNC Red Alert, so that when Tiberian Sun came out, we already had more or less a basic idea
Ah,
of
yeah.
how edit rules .ini and other subprograms.
So since you picked Tiberian Sun to make this mod, have you considered other CNC games aside for TS?
Well, I have, and of course, the newer CNC games are far more advanced. You can do so much more. But I also gave 20 years of my youth to making this mod, and so I gotta move on, man.
Yeah.
Perfect. Since I'm now developing a new game, which maybe we can talk about later. It's
Yeah.
it's no longer an RTS. It's a first-person shooter, but it's still very much connected to Vietnam. So
Okay.
the theme is Vietnam or the Nam.
Yeah. So going back to the main topic. So what is Danam? Danam or Dinam? Danam Vietnam Combat Operations. So what is Danam Vietnam Combat Operations? Yeah.
Okay. So the Nam Vietnam Operations is a real-time strategy mod of CNC Tiberian Sun, which I started working on back in 2003 as an after-school college project. Like
Mm,
everyone, school was so boring. You just wanted to go home and play Command and Conquer, right? And
yeah.
so I started working on this back in 2003 and kept on working on it intermittently, essentially for the next 17 years. And the program was already, let's say, one third of the way done by the time that, I graduated, you know, had life and had work and had a career to try to take care of. And so these things really took center stage. I didn't have time to program our beloved CNC anymore. But lo and behold, in 2019, something very big happened, something very crazy. Of course, it's the COVID lockdown.
Oh yeah.
So for the first in essentially forever, or since we had to all go to school, we had time to spend at home.
Yeah.
And so I took up quite a few things actually. I took up beading, how to make like beaded ornaments and like painting and things like that. But what really ate up the time was that I figured I can finally use this opportunity to finish the unnamed Tiberian Sun game, which I had been working on for 17 years. And so back to the drawing board, but this time with adult level skills. So I treated it like work. You would
Yeah.
design modules, you'd have a timeline to complete them, study them, and then you'd finish them in blocks. And then you'd polish, polish, polish. So I started programming again in, I think, 2019.
Mm.
And within about a year, we got to release the first version of the game, which we called the NAM. The NAM is how American soldiers usually would refer to the entire experience of having served in the Vietnam War. People would ask, "Oh, were you in the NAM?" So it's always the NAM, the Vietnam Combat Operations,
Mm, okay.
because the game has become a platform to create any combat operation set during the Vietnam Wars. There were actually several Vietnam Wars. And yeah, I know and I bore everyone with history, but the first one was against the French. The Vietnamese
Yeah.
defeated the French, whooped their butts in 1954. Then the Americans came in, and this is the Vietnam War that we usually think of. This is the second Vietnam War. So after the Americans pulled out and Vietnam was reunited, there was a third Vietnam War. And this was when China invaded Vietnam for
Mm.
just a few weeks. And they got their butts whooped by the Vietnamese. And so the game represents two of these wars, the second and the third Indochina War. So we launched it in October 2020 and we put it up on PPM, Project Perfect Mod, Revora, some other sites, and it gained initially a small following. But then I think it's because it's free. More and more people started to play it. And this prompted me to kind of polish it even further. So
Mm.
when you see people actually playing your game, in Filipino, gaganahan ka eh.
Yeah.
So you'll you'll have a drive to do even more for the players. So we updated it with the first DLC called Wider War
Mm-hmm.
in September 2021, about a year after the initial release. And the last DLC is called Tour of Duty, which we released, I think, just a few months later, maybe 2022. And altogether, the game plus the two DLCs, which you can all download with one click, comprises the NAM, which is the fully developed and polished version of the game, which took forever to make. So that's essentially the story.
So, uh, any other Vietnam game or mod references you before making this game uh, cited or something? Kasi you really know the facts on ground eh. Although if it's different from the one you fully immersed with, so you've gone through the like Vietnam, you flew over Vietnam and also in US, right?
Yeah, a few times. So as you can see from my background, don't worry, these things they're completely demilitarized. They don't work. You know, that's not legal. Uh, from the time I was pretty small, from the time I was a boy, I was always interested in the Vietnam War. And so I started by making scale models, some of which you can see here.
Okay.
So I make scale models, dioramas, things like that. I also collect Vietnam War action figures, actual Vietnam War memorabilia, books, you name it. So I've been collecting this stuff since I was a kid up to now. In fact, this weekend, while you're watching this, I'm gonna get a new shipment of stuff from the Vietnam War market. So it's an actual market in Saigon where they have
Mm,
stuff from the Vietnam War. So I'm getting some stuff from the Vietnam War. It's coming here to the Philippines just this weekend.
nice.
Lifelong thing to study the Vietnam conflict. Even my reading in the bathroom is about the Vietnam War. So
Oh, nice.
it's really second nature to talk about Vietnam, which I think differentiates me a bit from the other people who try to make games.
Mm,
Most of them are professional programmers who are given specific topics to make games of. I am the opposite. I don't know anything about program, but I know the topic forwards, backwards, sideways, upside down. And so that's why I feel like I can make a good Vietnam War experience because I kind of understand the history about it. And as you said, I also did visit Indochina quite a few times. So pumunta tayo ng Vietnam. We went to Vietnam. We visited the battlefields. We fired an AK on full auto. That
oh,
was fun. Fire,
so you
firing an assault
spray.
rifle with single shot. But firing on full auto, man, that was really fun. There's a place in Vietnam where you can fire an M60 A
Mm.
Mark 19. So a 30 caliber machine gun, a Garand M16. Pretty cool place. So I even got to visit the house of one of the most famous figures from the Vietnam War, General Vo Nguyen Giap. So he's the general that beat the French, and he's the most famous Vietnamese general of all time. And I got to visit his house. So ganun talaga. We're very much into Vietnam stuff, Vietnam culture, everything about it. And so we tried to put as many of these experiences into the game as we could to try to bring the players right there 40 years ago. I mean, sorry, years, 50 years ago
Oh,
in Vietnam.
okay then. So another question. So this now more on modding related na. What problems did you encounter during development? Uh, what did you have hard time making assets like sprites, voxels, stuff like that?
Okay, so like all of the modders in the community, man, I got like 50 white hairs just by trying to figure things out. So as we said earlier, programming is really trial and error.
Yeah.
And in my experience, it's far more error than trial. It's really mostly error, especially with CNC,
Yeah.
especially with Tiberian Sun, which will hang on you like anything. If there's one thing which you have misspelled in 10,000 lines of code, you, you've got to find the one thing that you misspelled or the whole thing's going to crash. And so really what worked for me was just being extra meticulous in trying to program everything. So if you wanted to put in 200 new units, you've got to master in playtest unit number one first from start to finish.
Mm.
Then put in unit number two from start to finish. So it's painstaking. It takes up so much time. But if it works, then mission accomplished. And like all of us, I had to learn most of this from scratch, how to make graphics, how to record sounds, music. I even did a lot of the VOs myself because
Nice.
it's pretty hard to grab from Vietnam War. Yeah, most of the sound and music come from the most famous Vietnam War movies. So, like Platoon and Full Metal Jacket and Born on the 4th of July. But for the lines which were never spoken, which we needed for the game,
Mm.
so ako na lang yung gumawa. So I did the VOs for them. So video game programming is you really learn so many useful professional skills from it. So as we said, programming is really trial and error. And in my experience, it's really mostly error. I think it's like 99.99996. Added long enough, and eventually the 0.0004 of winning will get it done. Yeah, your project will move forward. And I had to learn so much just to make the game as hopefully as immersive as it has become now. Everything from recording sounds out in nature. I would literally go to the forest and try to record sounds of birds to have natural sounds for the game, all the way to doing voiceovers. So a lot
Mm.
of the audio from the game is ripped from movies of the
Oh,
Vietnam
okay.
War, like the game as well, just to have all of the lines we need in the game. Even drawing graphics takes forever because of the palette conversion tools
Yeah,
of the CNC.
yeah.
Such a
Palette, CNC palette is very limited. So sometimes that, uh, what we call it will make the graphic will have become posterized.
yeah,
You'll
your
see
shoulder
lines of layers of colors, right?
your perfectly drawn graphic will suddenly have neon pink and neon orange spots. I don't know why. But after a while, you can master the tools that the CNC developers and the modding community have shared with everyone else. And so just by keeping at it, and again, that's really the lesson. Just keep at it. No, no matter how long it takes, you'll eventually get to complete the project. And maybe I'd like to share that I find that programming too has has become a very useful life skill because the only way for your programs, your mods to work is to do it so meticulously that there's no way for it to fail. So if you apply the same philosophy to your professional lives, to all our professional lives, and to life in general, then I'd say there is a philosophy of programming that can make us better people. And we can learn this from making our mods from CNC and any other game that we're working on. Kunwari malalim.
So anyway, I have here some questions from people in the community. To note, these are more more modding questions and more deep, uh, very technical. So you can answer, or if you want, not. It's up to you. Anyway, this one is from Bren64, and he said that will there be other sides, like other major belligerents from the communist side, like Viet Cong, China, and the Soviet Union, and Laos, ROK, Republic of Korea, and other shadow members be playable?
Yep. So in the NAM, there are two main sides. So you have Western powers, which would, of course, be the United States and all of the allies behind it, including South Vietnam. You have the Republic of Korea. You even have soldiers from the Philippines because the Philippines did send thousands of soldiers to Vietnam in Tay Ninh province. Uh, you have Anzacs, very famous. There's a map called Long Tan where you can play the Anzacs. And then on the communist side, you have the North Vietnamese. The army is called the PAVN, People's Army of Vietnam. Everyone just calls them the NVA. The terms are a bit confusing, but if you're a Vietnam War person, you would know this. But for everyone else, so the PAVN is the NVA, the North Vietnamese Army. And guerrillas who are based in South Vietnam, who were based to begin with there, are called the NLF or the National Liberation Front. Everyone just calls them the Viet Cong. So these
Mm.
are the main sides. But with the wider war expansion, which we released in September 2021, we also have other communist allies, including the Pathet Lao, based in Lao, and a very important component of the army because they help the Vietnamese guard the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The Ho Chi Minh Trail passed through large areas of Lao to get stuff from North Vietnam or wherever the supplies came from, all the way to the war zones in South Vietnam. Then you have the notorious Khmer Rouge or the Red Khmers, and you can see them in the intro of the Nam Wider War. You can see this on YouTube. Just type the Nam Wider War. They're the child soldiers in the intro. So the Khmer Rouge is, and we pulled no punches in showing that the Khmer Rouge is really more of a conscripted child soldier army.
Mm.
You can see that in the game. So how do you gain access to these units? So if you want to play as, let's say, the South Vietnamese or the Australians or the Filipinos or whatever, you have to find specific maps that have capturable buildings from
Mm.
these sites. And you can only capture them if you're from the same general alignment. So, play as Americans and you see a South Vietnamese barracks. if you capture it with an engineer, then you'll be able to produce South Vietnamese troops.
Okay.
Capture more stuff in the map. That's why all of the key buildings that you'll see in the map, no matter if they're just huts or Buddhist temples or government centers or ports, things like that, you have to capture them. They're not just sprites or graphics in the game. They're actually very useful to winning a particular battle.
Okay. So more the civilian buildings in the maps are technically
Yeah.
like in what they call tech buildings, right? So
They're tech buildings
okay.
that allow you to access specific uh, units from specific sides. So if you're Vietnamese, if you're North Vietnamese and you capture a Pathet Lao building or a Khmer Rouge building,
Mm.
then you get access to their units. But you can only find these buildings in maps where they were really found anyway. So it's always, we're looking at realism in history. So
Mm.
if you want to play as, let's say, the Chinese, you can play them in two maps. So I forgot the title, but they're the two last maps. I think the Red Dawn or something like that. And so you capture the Chinese forward command post. You can start churning out cheap Chinese troops, and you a dime a dozen. You can literally build hundreds of them, train hundreds of them. So to answer the question very quickly, all of these units are already in the game, but not all of them are buildable. There's
Okay.
one last faction which we want to add. Maybe it can be an add-on in the coming years. And that's the Republic of Korea. Korea sent 40,000 fighting troops in Vietnam. And they were super brutal because they used taekwondo on Vietnamese villagers. Um, the reason we haven't put in the Koreans in the game is because they're essentially, they have the same units and graphics as the South Vietnamese anyway. And unless you just want them speaking Korean, then it didn't really make sense
Mm.
to put them in there. But you know, if by popular demand, if someone would send Korean VOs, we can program it in. Sorry for such a long answer, but
No,
I'm
it's
trying
okay.
to
It's okay.
explain it as modding a sound for modders and players to understand.
I think I think ano to add from Ren's question. I think he's probably thinking uh like for example he can choose from the drop down selection like PAVN or like PAVN ROK or Marine or something like that.
Uh,
Maybe yeah. I think that's his interpretation. But I think that answers pretty well. Anyway, next
yeah.
question from an anonymous user. The game is freakingly hard, especially the units were instant build. Will there be a patch update where in the build time would be more slower? Because as I pump out infantry or vehicles, I can't penetrate the enemy base as the AI is more faster than me and I'm always being overrun. I think this one had already played the game. So
Yeah, yeah.
so what so
Definitely.
summarizing what will can the build time be more slower?
It can, but really kept it that way so that the the feeling is that you are always afraid that you're about to get swamped by something that may or may not be at the very border of that black shroud that you don't know about. And the way to really destroy the enemy base is to try to destroy the command center first. So in the game, these are the headquarters buildings.
Mm,
And it's also representative of how in real life, most of the time, this is all just a battle of attrition. Unless you do something to stop the flow of supplies, to stop one side continuously just calling on reinforcements and rebuilding structures, then the war goes on. So the short answer to the question is just really find the way to knock out the headquarters. And then you can play play the game as your usual CNC game, wherein it makes sense to try to roll in on the base. Although, just like in real life, I try to make the game as historically and strategically accurate as possible. So it's not just a skin mod for Command and Conquer. All of the tactics and strategies that you will need to use per side will pretty much be historically accurate. You can't just build a lot of units and roll into the hand of God style.
Mhm.
Like just build 12 Protoss carriers and that's
Yeah.
it, right? With 2 arbiters. That's not gonna work for this game because no one really did it that way. Uh, if you're American, you need to bomb the hell out of an area to make sure it's clear of things you can't see. Half the time you can't see the enemy if you're Americans. That's what makes fighting the Vietnamese in real life so
Mm.
difficult. And the Vietnamese can see everything that the Americans have, every single building, almost every single unit. But it's hard as hell to get in the base. So it's like David and Goliath, or essentially GDI and Nod,
Yeah.
which are kind of modeled after, I think, the Americans and the Vietnamese anyway, if you look at it. GDI is a very powerful side backed by international powers with slow units, which are sure. Nod uses all sorts of devious techniques to try to defeat GDI. And so Nod is essentially the Vietnamese. They'll do anything they can to win. Go underground, use suicide sappers, impersonate enemy officers, which you can do in the game. So all of these are at your disposal if you play around with the game.
Oh, okay then. Then next question from another anonymous user. So anyway, why guys you didn't try your names? Anyway. Also since this is CNC and the sell option is available, will you also include build up art? I think this is a follow-up question from that guy. Will you also include build up art? So I think uh you can't I think they said that they can't sell the buildings when they place it on the map. So they'll have to force fire, I think, or demolish it
Yeah,
by your
destroy
own.
it.
Yeah.
You control and then you try to destroy the building.
Yeah. I think they
The
wanted to have a sell option instead, so it will be more humane. Yeah.
I for some reason that option just didn't seem to work. Uh I don't know, maybe someone can look at the rules because I think the last 10 times I thought about it, the selling options didn't work in the game. I think I already theoretically programmed it to be true, but it just doesn't work in the rules that I maybe the code lines are doubled or something like that. Actually, if I could, no problem with me to have some of the buildings be sellable. Uh, so maybe someone can look at the code. It's dirty code for sure because it's a hodgepodge code of 20 years of trial and error. But when at least now it's relatively stable. Not as many dreaded gray Tiberian sun has crashed
Mm.
tabs anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's relatively stable. That thing only comes out after maybe 2 hours of playing. Uh, I really don't want to touch the rules so much anymore because it's so fragile. Rules.ini is so fragile.
So again, this question, is from the community representatives, from username Cat Tanker. So he asked, I think he rants. Why isn't the mod not using the CNC Net client? So by the way, as you know, CNC Net client is for Tiberian Sun to support multiplayer. So it introduces new game logics, improves gameplay, bug fix, and that was left from the original game. So to be stable, especially in latest OS. So here's a follow up question from Cat Tanker, not from me, but from Danny. If you remember Danny, who
Yeah,
made
Danny,
the
that,
mod,
yeah,
who
he's
made the
someone.
mod overview of the game. So I would like to know if he's got future plans for the mod, as it seems to have stopped development as of now. As Cat Tanker said, if he's looking into setting up in the CNC Net client to enable more accessible multiplayer for the TS community. So I think summarizing, they wanted to have a, or they wanted to, or they wish to include a multiplayer support for future builds. Yeah, very.
That, yeah, definitely. We tried twice to port it over to the new, more advanced CNC client with a ton of features that should have been part of CNC Tiberian Sun in the first place. What kind of game doesn't let you choose what side this your enemy is? What kind of game doesn't let you choose which part of the map you start with?
Yeah.
That's crazy to begin with. But this is the version that and we tried twice to port it over, but there were quite a few crashes. Some parts of it are not fully compatible. So I think the way to make it work is to redo the whole thing on the CNC client, which after 20 years, I really don't have time for. But I've said this in the fora. If anyone wants to do that, please feel free. It's yours. The game is yours, guys. If you want to add more stuff to it, like we have one guy, Black Dust, EA Win. He's making maps for the game now. And then we'll be
Nice.
sharing this on the Facebook page very soon. So these are some of the first user-made maps that we'll be sharing, maybe this month or early next month. So the game is shareware. Feel free to do what you want with it. If I had the time to do it in CNC client, I really would. But it crashed many times when we tried to port it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Old code.
Okay, then next is from an avid uh anonymous user again. I'm also an avid Vietnam history geek. So playing Vietnam Army, neutral units are attacking me and we are on the same side. Is it possible that when playing as Vietnam, all neutral Vietnamese units will change to the player? I guess this is a map trigger concerns, like changing houses from
Yeah.
start. So can that be possible? Yeah.
If if anyone in the community can help us do it, please. That's one thing I've been trying to solve for 20
uh,
years. The
uh,
same thing. Yeah, same thing. So of course, if you're playing as the US and then you see there are a lot of ARVN troops. ARVN's Army of the Republic of South Vietnam. They're randomly scattered across the map. They have their own installations, guarding bases and things. They always fire on you, whoever you are, even if you're Americans. I never figured out how to make them fire at only one specific side. I'm sure the advanced modders here know how. Please help so we can solve this problem.
anyway, okay. So here's another question from, I think it's a follow-up question. Will there be super weapons like Agent Orange, napalm strikes that can clear trees or rise, or maybe a re-implementation of the drop pod as ambush, or EMP effect as leaflet? Oh, nice. These are nice ideas, by the way. EMP as leaflet drop.
Those are great ideas. In fact, if someone could program that into the game, I'd be super grateful. It's a bit too advanced right now for my skill level. I'm sure the better modders can figure it out. I never could make super weapons work properly in the game. They were always kind of wonky for me. And so for that reason I just took them out entirely. But that's a great idea. I mean, Agent Orange is always fun, just to defoliate an area. So
Yeah.
Agent Orange was, of course, one of many types of chemicals. I was dumped into the jungles of Vietnam for. There are many types. There's Agent Blue. Agent Orange is the most popular one because it, really screwed people up years after being exposed to. I actually went to a place in Vietnam where I saw a lot of deformed people because of
Mm.
Agent Orange.
Oh.
And the only thing they could do were simple handicrafts that they'd sell to tourists. It really screws you up physically. It'll give you like an extra eye or like 19 toes or some weird stuff like that.
19 toes.
Yeah, it's super dangerous stuff. No, I just made that up, but they're really weird. It's like two-headed babies. You can Google this stuff. It's
Mm.
horrible. It's like chemical warfare, unintended chemical warfare, because they didn't really pilot test the thing when they. Vietnam as a whole was like a testing ground for so many types of technologies which we are using today. It advanced warfare and technology as a whole so quickly, but at the cost of a lot of human guinea pigs, like most
Mm.
wars.
Yeah.
Agent Orange. So if someone can program that in, that's great. And the ambush idea, I super love it. It's like the ambush function in CNC Generals,
Yeah.
right? For GLA. It's my favorite thing ever. For the GLA.
Anyway, it- this is another question. I think this a last one from anonymous user. Will you be remaking this mod to? Oh no, Red Alert 2 Years Revenge. Oh come on, this is only supposed to be Tiberian Sun. What's this? Anyway, will you be? I guess he means that moving forward, uh, will the NAM will be ported into other game and engines. I think that's
Well,
the
right
proper interpretation. Yeah.
Well, right now there are no plans for it. So I have some ideas on what we might be able to do with the platform in the coming years. The first one would be to try to depict the first Vietnam War. That's the first Indochina War, which would be the Vietnamese versus the French. Yeah, the French colonial army. So aside from that, there currently no plans because I think it already gives users of troops, and that's really the objective, to get to pacify the countryside or how to fight foreign invaders, which are all powerful and have limitless aircraft. The next step for the NAM is, as we talked about earlier, is to actually develop a new experience for Vietnam War lovers. And I'm already working on a new game now, which is not a real-time strategy game, but a first-person shooter. So the NAM allows you to control hundreds of troops and tanks and planes and things over a large area. The new game we're creating puts you right there in the boots or the rubber sandals of a soldier to see firsthand the grittiest things that a bodoy, infantryman, or a grunt will see. So the game is called the NAM because the NAM is something that we want to become a series. The NAM Arma Combat Operations. So as you
Nice.
figured out, it uses the Arma 3 engine in order to provide some of the what I hope would be the grittiest and most realistic depictions of the Vietnam War to date. Because like you guys, I've played almost all of the Vietnam War games ever made, from John Taylor's Vietnam to the latest ones. And there is really only one Vietnam War game that is realistic, FPS wise. That's Viet Cong,
Yeah.
2003 by Pterodon Games. Only those, like, you can see the passion and love for the game when you play Viet Cong. So I'm trying to make this as close to the ethos of Viet Cong as possible. The smallest details, from the patches to the expressions on the people's faces, these have to be important. So if you want to see a teaser to the game, this is not really it. I mean, I just made one teaser as a representative of what can be done here. Just type Hamburger Hill, Arma 3, or just follow Tiger Yan on YouTube. There's already one video posted there, but it's not yet representative of the campaign that we'll soon share freely with everyone who has Arma 3. So the campaign is a Vietnamese campaign. So you'll see firsthand how it is for what the usual experience is for a North Vietnamese soldier from the time he gets into the war up to whatever happens. We'll try to make it as gritty and realistic and hard as possible. So for more of this stuff, just follow us on YouTube, Tiger Yan. Makikita niyo itong game na to. So,
Yeah. So since this is Tiberian Sun related, so guys, you can also check Tiberian Genesis mod. It also depicts the Second Tiberian War for Arma 3. So you can experience Tiberian Sun in Ground Zero. So go check them out. So anyway, Tiger Yan, this is from me, my last question. So up to this day, what else do you think the mod needed or something that you missed to include?
well, quite a lot. For me, the mod is pretty much finished because I want to move on to creating other experiences for people who want to experience the Vietnam War. But the mod is now everyone's. So in the first place, we wouldn't have been able to make the mod without the help of great people like Banshee and so many people who willingly shared their skills, their sub-programs, the graphics that they've built. So our way of giving back is to give the mod back to the community. Now, we already discussed that there are things that I'm not really good enough. I'm not smart enough to program a lot of these things. But the modders here are. So if you can figure out a way to make sure the civilians don't freaking shoot at Americans or to port it over to the CNC client, which I also want. Like there's believe me, I'm as frustrated as anyone else that I can't pick who we're fighting. And we had to create other measures like like hover to the enemy base and listen to the sounds of rustling leaves. It's absurd, right?
Yeah.
But it's a back end solution to get through the limitations of the first version of Tiberian Sun. And really looking forward to seeing the mod come to life in the hands of other modders. So, it's yours. In Tagalog, marami pa tayong pwedeng gawin for the Vietnam combat operations.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Tiger Yan. So, any final message for our viewers and CNC fans around the world?
All right. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Gino. Thanks a lot for
Yeah, thank
featuring
you.
the Vietnam combat operations. It's really a big honor to talk about this game, and I can talk about it all day because, as you can see, I'm really into this Vietnam War stuff. I
Yeah.
can talk about this stuff all day. If you guys want to talk about the Vietnam War, just message us on the Vietnam Combat Operations. We're on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel, not a lot of followers, but we know our stuff. We talk about the Vietnam War there. So Tiger Yan, we're on ModDB, we're on PPM, and we're on quite a lot. We even have a Wikipedia page now, I think. I think I saw it recently. There's already a Wikipedia page for the NAM. So you can check all of this out. And please feel free to interact with us on the Facebook page. We'll be uploading user-made maps for pilot testing very soon, either this week or next week, feel free to download them and tell us what you think. And our line will always be open so long as you have fun ideas to share or fun experiences to share on our page. So maraming salamat, Gino, for having
Okay
us.
then. Okay then. Thank you. Always been a pleasure having you here with us. Hey, and there you have it. I hope you liked this segment of Ask a Mod Developer. If you have more questions from the mod, the num, you can comment your questions here. And to everyone out there, for more updates in this week's event, join us in the Tiberian Sun Anniversary Discord server. Links in the description, and I'm your host Gino, and I'll see you on the battlefield.
Primary objective achieved. Mission accomplished.